Hey everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Wrestle, my wrestling recap for this week. And I just saw TNA Impact, and guess what? It sucks! Okay, this was actually an above-average Impact as Impacts go, which means it sucked really bad, but it sucked slightly worse than it normally does. So, I guess we'll just start off with my normal format. I took my notes. Because there's so much crap that goes on in this show, I have to take notes so I can remember it all. So what I'll do is I won't read my notes, but I will consult my notes here and tell you of everything that happened. So, show starts off with the updated top 10 rankings. And I don't remember what the rankings are, but I do remember that Abyss is at number 1 because he completely lost his match at Victory Road. I said, why is Mr. Anderson number 3 contender? I don't think he's won a match in 2 months. Hernandez is number 7 now, which is completely mystifying because he wasn't in the top 10 rankings until now, and yet Kurt Angle is still number 8, which he got there by fighting the number 10, 9 contenders in a row. He's been clawing his way up the rankings for 2 months now, so he's number 8, but Hernandez, he's number 7. He just leapfrogs over, because that makes a lot of sense. Thanks, good job. Okay, so it starts off with Abyss bringing a board with like 100 nails. It's like this big stick with all these nails in it. He brings it to the ring along with a side of beef. Pardon me, cocaine habit. So I wrote, am I alone in being a little weirded out that Abyss is literally trying to murder Rob Van Dam with this thing? It's almost like a 4x6 or something like that with these zillions of nails in it. This thing is like not little nails. I'm talking like big fucking nails that are pounded through this thing, like 6-inch nails, man. It's crazy. So, when I saw this thing, I'm like, there's kind of a line. It's this weird unwritten line that when you're watching a wrestling match, I may have brought this up before, but like when there's a no disqualification match, and you sometimes ask, well, they ask like the announcers even say like they can bring anything they want to the ring. They could hit him with chairs, they could hit him with a 2x4, they can bring a ladder, and so your immediate smart ass question is, well, why don't they bring like a stun gun to the ring, or why don't they bring a sword? Like if there's no disqualification, they can't lose this match. Bring a knife, bring a baseball bat, bring whatever you want. Like you're trying, if there's no rules here, you can kill the guy and you'd win the match. So there's kind of this line here, and like the rational person says, well, okay, well they wouldn't bring a sword because that's stupid. Like there's a wrestling match, and then there is the act of attempted homicide. With you're bringing a deadly weapon to the ring, whacking a guy with a chair. You can kill a guy doing that, but it's a chair. It's kind of a blunt instrument. You can see like, oh, he got knocked out by a chair. No. Abyss is bringing a board with nails that if he hit you in the head with it, you'd fucking die. And it just blows my mind. He's bringing this thing to the ring, and I said, isn't this the exact same thing that caused Dixie Carter to suspend Sting for 30 days? I was like, hell, actually, Sting was just hitting a guy with a baseball bat. He wasn't trying to kill anyone. Abyss is trying to kill this man. I don't understand what the hell is going on with TNA in here. So, Abyss, he says, he gets in the ring and he says he's calling the board Janice. And they taught him how to put nails in it, and they taught him how to use it. So I guess they paid for the community college course in how to create a board with nails in it and how to use it as an effective weapon. He says it's his love, it's his girl, but she's got a dark side. And so he freaks out, he throws the side of beef in the ring, and he starts beating the side of beef with the stick. And hilariously to me, he beats the beef so hard that the board snaps in half. But, like, Abyss, God bless the guy, He stays in character, and he starts, like, ripping and clawing at the beef. He throws the bat away, he starts ripping at the beef with his bare hands. He's like, ah! He's like, he bends down, he's like, ah! He starts biting into the beef, and he's like, ah! I was like, well, he just got finished saying this board was, like, his girlfriend. Like, he loves this board, and he broke it. I would have thought, like, if he was staying in character, he would have, like, seen the shattered piece of his board. He's like, no, Janice! I broke my stick. No, he's like, fuck it, I'll make a new one. So yeah. Next we go to Serita and Taylor Wilde. If you don't know, they were a women's tag team champ. And here's what I wrote in my notes. I will pay anyone on the internet $1 million if they can tell when the hell Serita turned heel and why. You can tell Sarita's heel now because she wears black. Yeah. So they fight backstage, they fight all the way to the ring, and they fight all the way through the commercial. And during the commercial, there's a commercial for the new TNA Impact game for the PSP, which the news broke for this on Twitter, by the way, but this is the first commercial I've seen for it where these two guys are in like a game store and they play a demo of TNA Impact. So they do this thing where, it says, the commercial says, it's the new TNA Impact game featuring, quote, the return of the immortal Hulk Hogan. And then it shows a clip of Hulk Hogan in the game, like wrestling, and Hulk Hogan throws a drop kick. Okay, Hulk Hogan couldn't throw a fucking drop kick in 1984. In 2010, Hulk Hogan couldn't throw a fucking drop kick if you had a 6-man wire team and he was wearing rocket boots. The visual of Hulk Hogan drop kicking anybody, he couldn't jump if you were dangling like a Grand Slam breakfast over his head. Like he can barely walk. This dude is like, what is he, like 60, 65 years old? The dude he's older than my dad. This guy is ancient. It's like, it'd be like watching the Great Khali throw missile drop kicks. The dude is virtually immobile. You might as well just like, I don't even know. Like, it'd be like my car throwing a missile drop kick. It wouldn't happen. I don't know. Okay, so we come back, and Serita and Taylor Wilde are actually battling at ringside. Actually, as brawls go, it wasn't bad. And Serita wins the street fight. They never get in the ring. They kind of throw chairs at each other and stuff like that. And Serita gets thrown into the ring, and she takes a fan's purse, okay? And she chokes out Taylor Wilde with the fan's purse strap. Or as I like to call it, she Chris Benoit her. And that was too soon. But what struck me about this one is, this is the exact same type of spot that got Bryan Danielson fired from WWE. But lest you think I'm being too kind to the WWE, this is the kind of like PG-rated bullshit that they're like, we can't show someone getting strangled with a purse strap. That's Benoit-y. That's too Chris Benoit. We can't do that. It raises a specter. So, and besides that, that's too violent for our PG rating because wrestling has to be for kids. You know, we can have a guy who's threatening another man with a board full of nails in it. Okay, well that's TNA, but like, you know what I'm saying with the WWE thing. Really weird segment going on. I don't know where they're going with this. We cut back to Eric Bischoff's office, and it's only Miss Tessmacher, and I just realized a while back. I should have realized this a long time ago, but the secretary named Miss Tessmacher, that's the character who's in the Superman movies. That's Lex Luthor's like secretary is Miss Tessmacher, and I can't believe I didn't know that until like really recently. I always knew that name sounded familiar, but I was actually just watching Superman. I think it was actually Superman 2, because it was General Zod coming down, and I was like, what? With Miss Tessmacher? But yeah, so Miss Tessmacher's on the phone, and Kevin Nash comes in, and he's like, I got like an 8:30 with Hogan. And Tessmacher's like, they've got pressing business elsewhere, so they're not here. And by the way, Hogan and Bischoff we're not here all night, which stunned me, actually, because I thought they were really trying to cram Hogan down our throats like every week, because he was the big acquisition. I don't know. So, like, Nash, he's upset. He's like they've been ducking my meetings. They've been putting things off. They're not taking me seriously. And then he's like, well, what about me and you get together, Miss Tessmacher? How about 10? I guarantee you it'll be the last meeting of the night. And so this was really creepy. It's like you got this, she's probably like 22, something like that. And like Kevin Nash is hitting on her. It's like she's getting hit on by her grandfather. He probably is old enough to be her grandfather. It's kind of weird. I don't know. Okay. Another weird match. I don't know why. TNA tends to do this thing now where they have to add gimmicks to like half their matches, or maybe even more than half their matches. I don't know why. Here's the thing about gimmicks. Gimmicks are good when they're used sparingly. When you use gimmicks too much, they lose a lot of their specialness. So when you see a bunch of street fights, when every match is a street fight, street fights tend to lose their appeal, which is what happened to the hardcore title in WWF. It was a hardcore match every week, So, when people, it's kind of, there's like a level of violence that's inherent to a hardcore match where people are getting like pummeled with chairs all the time. And so like in a normal wrestling match, when one guy gets hit with a chair one time, that's usually enough for the pinfall. So like there's kind of an escalation that takes place, which is why you don't do specialty matches all that often, because it kind of confuses fans, if that makes sense. I don't know if it makes sense. But anyway, so the match I'm talking about is Brian Kendrick versus Douglas Williams, who is the what is he champion of? He's not the global champion. He's X Division champion, right. So it's a non-title I Quit match on free TV, and I don't know why an I Quit match to me is the blow-off match for an entire feud. It's always that match they kind of bust out in those special circumstances where these two guys have done everything to each other. They've beaten each other in every type of match, and they're like, you know what? We're gonna settle this. I'm gonna make you say I quit, because that's how they actually tend to build I Quit matches over the course of a month. At least WWE does, and they do it right, I think. So all of a sudden they just announce it's an I Quit match between Kendrick and Douglas Williams, and I'm like, all right, is it for the title? And nope, it's not. So it was an okay match. What did I say? Kendrick goes for the Cobra Clutch just about every time he gets some offense, because that's the one submission he knows, and they've been really trying to put over the Cobra Clutch. And eventually he gets it, and Williams quits. Okay. I guess I can't complain about wrestling when it actually takes place on this show, but yeah, I guess my main problem was the placement and the choice of stipulations. We could have just had him wrestle a match. I don't know. We could have him move on. I thought we've kind of settled this feud by now. We had him in the, the Ultimate X match that Douglas Williams could also win by submission. So, yeah, take this really extraordinary match where people are going to be flying around and pretty much guarantee the one guy who can't fly around won't fly around. So why did you make it an Ultimate X match? I don't know. Yeah, okay, so he wins, and Kevin Nash comes out, and Spanky starts getting in his face. Kendrick starts this little dude talking to Kevin Nash, and he starts getting in Nash's face. And what the question that raised in my mind is, Brian Kendrick is kind of supposed to be the baby face in this feud, and he doesn't really act like a face. It's weird. He's still kind of this crazy, crystal gripping hippie character who's I've seen with my third eye, man, and Destiny has said I would win the title, and like he actually has kind of this heelish character, and he's always had this heelish character, kind of doing this little swaggery type thing where it's weird. If you see him, you understand what I'm talking about. But it's heel on heel matches like this Douglas Williams thing don't make any sense. So he starts getting in Nash's face. He eats chokeslam, and Nash gets in the ring and he starts rambling about how he can't get any TV time, and Hogan and Bischoff are just blowing him off. Then Jeff Jarrett comes out, and he says, like, this is not what TNA needs. He says, like, what are you doing? He's like, I don't know what he's doing. Like, what Jeff Jarrett's doing out here? He says he comes out and he calls Kev a glory hound and an egotistical son of a bitch. He's like, you're a glory hound, and everyone has to pay attention to Kevin Nash. Really, a wrestler is a glory hound. Woo! That's insightful, Jeff. Thanks for playing. So Kevin Nash immediately turns around and he says, why the hell do you care what I do? Why do you care what Kevin Nash does? Why did you come out here? Why are you sticking up for Hogan and fucking Bischoff, both of whom have, like, demoted you, stripped you of your power in this company, made you almost... They put you in the cafeteria, grilling fucking hot dogs. He's like, why are you sticking up for them? And Jeff is like... And Kev just walks off. And I'm like, that's a fair question. Kev is supposed to be the heel here? They don't know how to tell, like, babyface and heel stories. Like, and I don't know where this is going. Are we going for, like, a Jeff Jarrett, Kevin Nash match? Who's the good guy here? Who's right in this thing? Because, like, Kevin Nash is pretty much in the right here. You know, I'm not saying he should get more TV time, but he's actually going through, like, official channels trying to resolve these issues. He's not seeming to be like this prick who's he kind of is being forced into making statements and, you know, making himself a nuisance until he's heard, because, like, he's making appointments. They're ducking the appointments, and then Jeff Jarrett's like, you're a glory hound, Kev, and I'm like, you know, he called the front office. He made his appointment. He showed up. They weren't there. You know, this is like this whole glory hound thing that was like, Jeff Jarrett is coming across his heel here. And by the way, Jeff, that hair you got going on, that bleach blonde hair, I could hit that hair with a level 4 hurricane, and that hair would, you know, it might move, but it would, like, I shudder to think, like, if I were to, like, grab his hair and pull, it would, like, snap off like straw. It would just... The damage that man has done to his hair with that peroxide shit is... I can't even fathom what that dude is doing to his hair. That is amazing stuff. Desmond Wolf versus Rob Terry and Samoa Joe. Hey, wrestling, can't complain. That was a good match. The story here is everyone's mad at Desmond Wolf for costing them the tag match at Victory Road. But if you don't know, Rob Terry and Samoa Joe teamed up against AJ Styles and Kazarian. They were the mystery opponents. And so Desmond Wolf interfered, costing Samoa Joe and Rob Terry the match. So everyone hates them. They fight for a while, and eventually Joe... okay, something happens during this match, and whenever an announcer says something intensely stupid, I have to quote it. And so, like, most of my SmackDown notes are, like, 2 pages of all the stupid shit that Matt Stryker says. And so, actually, people got really sick of me on my Twitter when I started I started twittering that list. Just, like, one SmackDown, I had, like, 30 Twitter posts of all the just insane, rambling bullshit that Matt Stryker said. But Taz had a good one today. Okay, so the story is, Joe's doing these things where he doesn't do knife-edge chops. He kind of does this thing where he, like, palm strikes a dude across his chest. So it makes this really loud slapping sound, and it must hurt like a son of a bitch. So Joe's doing this thing where he's slapping the guy across the chest. He's slapping Desmond Wolf across his chest. And Taz says, and I quote, "That's a great way to lose an areola. I'm telling you." Okay, I will repeat. That's a great way to lose an areola. I'm telling you. To lose, he will just lose it. He will slap the areola right off you. So, Joe chokes out Desmond with the rear naked choke, and Chelsea looks on disapprovingly and walks out. And I wrote, I could have just copy-pasted this last sentence for every Desmond match in the last 2 months. Commercial. Cut back. Ric Flair's backstage saying he's going to make an announcement that's going to change TNA's direction. In other news, the sun rose today just as scheduled. They announce a best-of-5 series between Beer Money and Motor City Machine Guns, the first being a ladder match. And I just had a long chain of question marks after ladder match, because my reaction was, huh? Okay, first off, I'm not going to complain about there being a lot of matches between the Machine Guns and Beer Money, because these guys are really good wrestlers, and they could have a good match pretty much in their sleep. So, my question is answered, which is actually pretty rare, believe it or not. I'm amazed they answered this question, because, okay, so they say, I was like, what are they climbing for? And like the belts, and I was like, no, it's not the belts. So they cut over and they show they're climbing the ladder for a contract to match number 2, and if they get the contract, they can have any stipulation for the match they want. And I always love those stipulations where the other guy can choose the other stipulation, because I said, okay, once again, we got a gimmick match for no real reason. Although, I guess this was okay, but this open stip thing is really stupid, because if the heels win, what's to stop them from booking a Beer Money gets flamethrowers match, or the other team has to start in handcuffs match, or the Beer Money wins the match, or like they could book any stipulation they want. I just... Maybe if there was a list of stipulations they could choose, but this whole any stip they want thing, if you think about it, and if you're a TNA fan, you're probably not thinking about it, but if you are thinking about it, it's pretty dumb. A really good match. It's a damn good match, actually. And this is actually in a day when ladder matches are pretty much done. And I say that as Money in the Bank is rapidly approaching, which is like purely ladder matches. I hate to say this. I hate to be this old guy who's kind of, been there and done that with the ladder thing, but pretty much everything that can be done with a ladder match kind of has been done. In fact, it's been done to death. So, I mean, it was really pioneering when, Shawn Michaels was doing this stuff, when they first did the Money in the Bank thing, and they were doing, tables, ladders, and chairs matches, but they keep trying to outdo themselves with the ladder matches, doing these things where they have, ladders on pivots, they're doing the battering rams, they're running up ladders, they're setting up things and throwing people through the ladders. And that's why you need to save ladder matches. I think that's why I objected to the ladder match. Not only because you're only really supposed to do ladder matches when you have belts on the line, but you really need to save ladder matches for really, really important things. You can only... seriously, I would only do one a year. Because you gotta save... when you overexpose the ladder match... Okay, at WrestleMania, they did a Money in the Bank match. And it was a good match, but if you try to compare it to the previous Money in the Banks when they were, really fucking crazy... these guys were... This was before, the PG days of WWE, when the ladder matches were really, really, hardcore extreme type stuff, and they were, fucking killing themselves for these matches. And so we've kind of backed down quite a bit from those days. So, it's all got kind of this been there, done that feel to it, and it's not nearly as exciting as it used to be. So, if you've actually seen the old school tables, ladders, and chairs matches, the new ladder matches that you see nowadays are really not that good. And so... I think I came into this match with a really bad attitude. I was like, oh, shit, a ladder match. But they did a good job. I rather like this match. There was one blown spot where they did this thing where, I think it was James Storm's in the corner. He's got this ladder, and it's kind of forming a ramp leading up to him. The ladder's in his gut, the other end's on the ground, and it's kind of got this wedge leading up to him. So I think it was like Sabin starts running up the ladder and tries to clothesline him, but the ladder slips. And what startles me about this one is TNA has never been shy about editing out, like really badly editing their matches because it's taped, it's for TV. So like they showed a really blatantly blown spot in this match, which you'll never see that on SmackDown because on SmackDown they actually tend to somewhat care what their matches look like. But that was one really bad blown spot, which the rest of the match was really good, even for a ladder match. I said good match until the weird overbooked finish. I hate overbooked finishes, although... Okay, I'll try to explain what happens. They do this thing where the referee, Brian Hebner, gets knocked out of the ring. One guy gets thrown into the other. The other referee, Earl Hebner, goes to check on him. While this is happening, Sabin climbs up the ladder, grabs the contract, but the ref doesn't see him grab the contract. While he's holding the contract, James Storm cranks him over the head with a beer bottle, knocks him out, grabs the contract. And so when Earl Hebner looks over, he sees that James Storm has the contract, and he's like, oh, he must have climbed the ladder and got it. So they win the match. And I'm like, see, this is why, like soccer, wrestling needs the instant replay. But it was well executed. I'm sure the live crowd was really fucking confused as to what happened because the announcers really had to justify what was going on. Like, oh, Earl Hebner didn't see that. He was the backup referee, and he knows these things. He only saw the tail end of this. I kind of dislike... I really dislike referee shenanigans in matches. It kind of bothers me, especially when they do these things with replacement referees where, like, one referee gets knocked out, another guy has to come in. And, in fact, on Victory Road, they did the exact same thing where, like, I actually think Brian Hebner got knocked out. Earl Hebner comes down. He gets kind of distracted, and two guys get pinned, and both referees count the pinfall, and it was a double pin, which is why there's a best-of-5 series. There's controversy as to who really won the match. So like it's those kind of weird referee shenanigans that get really frustrating when you're watching the show. You're just like, why can't we just have a match? So like if they're gonna do this thing where there's referee shenanigans every fucking match, it's gonna be like the most frustrating series to watch ever. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Abyss is going melon crazy backstage. He's smashing water. He's got a replacement stick. I wonder if the new stick is also called Janice, but the announcers kept referring to it as Janice, so I guess it's Janice too. Yeah, he was going all Gallagher and watermelons, which actually raises some interesting questions. Where did he find a watermelon? I'm serious. Where do you find a watermelon in the Impact Zone? There's only one thing I can think of, and that's as Abyss was driving to the Impact Zone, he was like, you know what I need? he's got his stick, and he's like, I need a side of beef, and I'm going to need a watermelon. So he goes, can you even get a side of beef at the super? He had to go to like a butcher's. Like he had to make 2 stops. He had to, or maybe 3, because he had to get the board, he had to get the nails, he had to get the side of beef, and he had to go buy a watermelon so he could smash it. And then he starts eating the watermelon. He's like, ah, because he's crazy. He's melon crazy. Matt Morgan versus the Pope. Matt Morgan did the job. He laid down in probably less than 2 minutes. Like, Pope squashed him. I've never seen Pope squash anybody before, much less Matt Morgan. And I remind you, Matt Morgan, up until recently, was defending the tag team championships by himself against legitimate tag teams. Like, he was beating the Motor City Machine Guns alone. And now he's laying down for the Pope in less than 2 minutes. It's really weird booking here. Sometimes I just don't know. I mean, I can never complain about the Pope wrestling if the match were over like 90 seconds, but I guess I would have complained if Matt Morgan had beaten the guy, but man, weird match. So, sometimes it's strange. Okay. So, after the match, Morgan starts beating up the Pope, and he does this thing. I don't know why this is a regular thing that Matt Morgan does and why people are buying into it. If you don't know, Matt Morgan does this thing. Like, he was tag partners with Hernandez. And when they broke up as a tag team, Matt Morgan turned on Hernandez, beat him up, and did this thing where Hernandez is beaten up, and he props him up against the ring post. Like, he's outside, okay? I don't know if you can... You have to kind of... If you haven't seen it, it's hard to imagine, but, like, imagine the post is here, okay? He leans the guy against the post to where his head is against the post, and he backs up, and he does, like, this running kick, and he kicks the guy's head into the post, giving him a concussion. I'm sorry. So it looks really, really ridiculous because the guy has to really cooperate and, like, hold his head against the post because he's standing. Like, he's so comatose that he can't move his head away from the post, but he still has to stand. So, like, why... He has to, like, consciously stay there. Like it would actually, if you actually tried to, like, put your head up against something and kind of slouch, it would actually take a sizable amount of effort to do this thing. While a guy is, like, visibly running towards you trying to kick your head into the post. And there's so many easier ways to, like, just fall down. Like, don't let him, like, don't do that. Don't stand with your head against the, like, just kind of, like, yeah, and fall. Like, there's so many easier ways he could do this. In fact, I've seen this done many ways where it's a lot more sensible. Like the ring steps, you know? You've got these steps that lead into the ring. I've seen dudes do this thing where they'll beat the guy up and they'll kind of throw them against the stairs to where they're kind of slouching against the stairs. Like they're knocked out, but they're sitting up against the stairs. And then the guy kicks them with their head against the steps. And they're like, oh, and it makes a hell of a lot of noise. And actually, it's a lot more impressive than kicking into the post because of that noise. Like, when they kick him into the steps, it goes boom! And like the steps move and they fly away. And the guy, he falls to the ground like, oh, my head. And it looks really impressive. It sounds really impressive. And I'm like, why don't they do that? Because, and besides that, it doesn't make the other guy look like a complete retard for just holding his head against the post. Like, just having a guy slouched against the stairs, it works so much better. So, like, he's about to do this thing, and Mr. Anderson, the guy goes, Mr. Anderson! He comes out, and he makes the save. Although, he doesn't really make the save, because he's like, he grabs the Pope, throws him in the ring, and then he's like, hey, come in the ring. We're going to beat up the Pope together. And nobody in the whole audience is buying it because... And like Matt Morgan gets in the ring and he's like, we're going to beat Pope up. And then he turns on Matt Morgan. He starts beating Matt Morgan up and he throws Matt Morgan out of the ring. And they're like, oh, he's an asshole. That Anderson, he's so funny. And, yeah, okay. Then Pope is like, what the fuck is going on? I got so beat up. And Anderson, he stands Pope up and he's like, I want to shake your hand because I'm a good guy now for some reason. And Pope is like, and the audience is like, okay, here's the story. And again, this is the burden of actually having a memory, you know, actually having watched Impact for, you know, more than a week. Here's the deal. If you don't remember, when Anderson joined the company, he was a heel. And when he was a heel, he beat up the Pope so bad, he actually injured him for 3 months by gouging his eye out. Like attacking him with... I forget what he attacked him with, but like I know he was like... The story was... He was like, he injured the dude's eye. Oh, he tried to stab him with a screwdriver. It was like a pen. They were in a cage match, and he grabs a pen from a cameraman and stabbed the man in the eye! And then, like, for like 3 weeks, Pope had this eye patch on because he got stabbed in the eye with a pen! And then Anderson jumped him backstage and kept, like, punching him in the eyeball. And for, like, 3 months, they did this injury thing where, like, he ripped his arm out of socket, and his eye was all beat up, and, like, he was like, I can't see, I can't fight. And so, like, then Anderson's like, friends? Fuck you! fuck you hard. No! Like, if some guy stabbed you in the eye with a pen, and then, like, 3 months later, he's like, sorry, I'm an asshole. And the crowd is like, Anderson! I do not know what is up with the Impact Zone audience. Like, they're like, we're assholes! Yay! And they're like, Mr. Anderson, he's so funny. He stabbed a man with a pen! And like, even even the Pope is like, he stabbed me in the eye. Who does that? I said, this face turn makes no sense. Here's a very long series of segments that I almost hate to recap because it involves women wrestling. Okay. This is a whole barrel load of crazy. I almost hate to crack this barrel open because it's so stupid. Okay. I will endeavor to explain it. My notes are, the beautiful people are this stable of women's wrestlers. Lacey Von Erich and Velvet Sky are backstage, and they're arguing about Madison Rayne, who was the Knockouts champion. And they're mad because Madison has been acting uppity. Ever since she became Knockouts champion, she's been acting snobbish. And at Victory Road, she introduced a fourth member of the beautiful people, pardon me, that is this mystery woman on a motorcycle. So they're mad that they added a member of the beautiful people to the group without consulting them. And so Lacey is acting like a bubblehead. Velvet Sky is like, I'm gonna beat her ass for this, because this, like, I have had enough of fucking Madison Rayne. So meanwhile, Madison hits the ring and is protesting the decision at Victory Road that cost her the Knockouts title. Flashback. Okay? Here's the story. At Victory Road, it was Madison Rayne against Angelina Love for the Knockouts title. And the stipulation was, if any of the beautiful people interfered, Madison Rayne would lose the Knockouts title on disqualification. So, they're fighting, and a mystery woman on a motorcycle wearing a helmet so you couldn't tell who it is interfered in the match, and the referee saw this and went, Madison Rayne is disqualified, Angelina Love is the new champion because a beautiful person interfered. And so Madison is now in the ring protesting the decision that cost her the title, and she says that nobody can prove that it was one of the beautiful people who interfered. So she shouldn't have lost the match because there was no proof it was a beautiful person that interfered. Now, I distinctly remember, this is a tangent I'm going on, I distinctly remember that titles do change hands on disqualifications in TNA, no matter what. So, like, not just forget the fact that it's a beautiful person here. I distinctly remember the World Heavyweight Championship changing hands on a DQ. Like, I think Jeff Jarrett lost it on a disqualification. But I don't know, maybe ever since the Hogan regime, we've changed it. So, okay, let's just roll with the premise that if a beautiful person interfered, she loses the title on a DQ. All right. So, Madison's saying, you can't prove it was a beautiful person, so I should not have lost the title. I think the burden of proof here is on Madison Rayne. Because here's how you do it. It's like, she says, they can't prove it was a beautiful person. Why don't you prove it wasn't a beautiful person? How? You bring the motorcycle chick to the ring, and you take her fucking helmet off. Not one of the beautiful people. You get your title back. Am I crazy? Take the helmet off. Unless, in fact, it is one of the beautiful people. Which it's not. So what the fuck is the holdup? Just be like, here's what you do. You go into the ring and you say, I want my title back. I was unfairly stripped of the title. Why? Because it wasn't one of the beautiful people. And to prove it, here's the motorcycle chick. Motorcycle chick comes down. It's Tara. I get my title back. And you know, they could have done this at Victory Road when they announced that, like, she was right there. She loses the match and they go, the winner as the result of a disqualification and due to interference by the beautiful people, new Knockouts champion! Madison could have been, helmet off. But no. So, it gets dumber. Because they don't do that. I said, the rest of the beautiful people come out pissed off. And they start arguing with Madison about how she's uppity. And Madison says, maybe you've overdosed on your dumb blonde pills. Because dumb blonde pills. I think they sell those at the jerk store. So, and then she fires back. It was like Velvet Sky fires back and says, well, I think you've overdosed on yours. Wow, the level of discourse in TNA is just riveting. This is, not since the Lincoln Douglas debates have we seen such a back and forth dueling witty repartee. You've overdosed on your pills from the jerk store. Ooh. And besides that, if there's a natural blonde in the bunch, I will eat my shorts. So, Angelina Love comes out. And, I never like to be this guy, but Angelina Love, woof. This chick, I never like to say a chick looks ugly. I don't. But this chick looks like a hooker jonesing for heroin. She looks bad. And they really think she looks just amazing. Like, whoever's in management thinks like this. She looks like a fiber optic cable. She looks bonier than a fiber. She has like all these sharp angles, and she wears way too much makeup. Like, she looks like a whore. I'm not even joking. Like, just she would probably look pretty good if she just dressed not normal, but like if she didn't. Like, every one of the beautiful people does this thing where they trowel on the eyeshadow, and it's like this really thick pink eyeshadow that sparkles. And like with Angelina Love, she has like this blue eyeshadow on that makes her eyes just look sunken and unhealthy. She looks really bad. She comes out, she says she knows it was velvet on the motorcycle because she'd know those big fake boobs anywhere. And Madison fires back saying, "It so could not have been me, because the chick on that motorcycle had such a dumpy ass. And look at this ass." And like, please, could not have been me. And so I wrote, this is the greatest mystery driver angle since the driver of the Hummer. I guess it is. So the girls, to prove that they weren't the ones on the motorcycle, completely abandoned Madison Rayne. Angelina charges, and sure enough, the motorcycle chick rides into the impact zone, beats her up, and together she and Madison drive off. Never occurs to them to take the helmet off and prove it wasn't a beautiful people. This is the kind of writing that you almost... I'm trying to think of... I am just incoherent with how stupid this is. I'm trying to think of like a way you could write this angle. Like if you were writing this story down on paper, you were like, okay, story is she'll lose the title if a beautiful person interferes. So we have someone interfere that's not one of the beautiful people. The question is immediately raised, why doesn't she just reveal that it's not one of the beautiful people? Isn't that the point? Like, you'd think she would be proud of this decision. Like, I outsmarted you. It's not one of the beautiful people. See? It's like, you couldn't even write this. It's so stupid. You actually almost had to... It's almost brilliant in how stupid it is. Because nobody is this stupid. Like, you had to intentionally write... Like, it's a plot hole so deliberate. I almost wonder how one writes this. This is, like, beyond mere incompetence. It's like, this is what I'm saying. It's like, it's so stupid that nobody is this stupid. It almost has to be deliberate. Do you follow? Like, next match, Jeff Hardy versus Jay Lethal, and I just wrote, why? I think I started to really drift off here. I just wrote why several times. It's a good match. It was short, but it was good. But why? I don't know. Jeff wins clean with a Swanton Bomb. During the match, the ECW guys come out and do nothing at ringside again. Okay. Then, we're in the home stretch. Ric Flair comes out, and he names that he says he's going to announce the first two members of Fortune, and surprising no one, it's AJ Styles and Frank Kazarian. They're the first two members of Fortune. And my immediate reaction was, TNA is forever changed! AJ Styles and Kazarian are in a group when they were in a group before. Change? Okay. Desmond Wolf comes down demanding to be in Fortune as well because he's been helping them win matches. And while they're arguing, Abyss comes down and clears the ring out. He's got his new stick. He comes out and he says, RVD, come to me! Which I thought was actually kind of a cool catchphrase. RVD, come to me! Well, so he calls Rob Van Dam out, and I always love when Rob Van Dam comes out because he has his really generic, not generic, but really repetitive, written by a 4-year-old music where it's all da-da-da-da-da. Rob Van Dam! Da-da-da-da-da. Whole effing show! Da-da-da-da-da. Rob Van Dam! Ba-da-da-da-da. The 5-star frog splash! Da-da-da-da-da. So, I could just go on forever. It was like they it's like, were you playing with dolls and you were like kind of humming, like you were, it's like something like if you were making up a song with literally 5 seconds of prep time and you were like, okay, I'm gonna make a song for me. Da 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 da. It's time for the Spoony one. Da 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 da. Wrestling show. It just it's like the most infantile song I've ever heard in the history of wrestling, aside from maybe like David Flair's wrestling theme. Abyss, he blabs on forever about how they're coming and how they want him to pave the way by getting the world title away from Rob Van Dam. So he says, we're going to hang Janice 15 feet above the ring, and we're going to have the most extreme match in the history of professional wrestling. And we'll call it a hyperbole on a pole match. You know, once again, this is probably something that only bothers me, but TNA is entering this, has had this really bad habit for a long time now, where not only that every week are they promising a change, promising something that will change the face of TNA and all wrestling forever, but they engage in these hyperboles like, we're gonna have the best extreme match in history, and like, we're gonna have the biggest change in wrestling history. Like, every week they cry wolf on this sort of thing. And even if you're a hardcore fan, like, even if I loved TNA, loved it, like, every week they're like, we're gonna change the face of wrestling, we're gonna dominate Monday nights, we're gonna do, like, every week with this shit. So, yeah. They fight, weirdly enough, Abyss puts down his stick when confronted with the guy he keeps threatening to hit with his stick. He chokeslams Rob. Oh, pardon me a second. So, yeah, he chokeslams Rob, and he notices the stick. So, he goes over, he's going to grab the stick, and then Mick Foley comes out. And Mike Tenay says something like, "We haven't seen Mick Foley since Eric Bischoff fired his ass," or something like that. And so, Mick Foley is actually, he's wearing his flannel. Like, he always has that little flannel vest on, but he's also wearing, like, this tie-dye shirt with a peace symbol on it, which is actually kind of this really bizarre mix of Cactus Jack and Dude Love. So I got a good laugh out of that, actually. I was like, it's Dude Love wearing flannel or something. I don't know. I got a good kick out of that. So Mick Foley comes out, and almost immediately the ECW dudes jump the rail and start attacking everyone. And they beat up Abyss. They beat up Rob Van Dam. The rest of the locker room starts coming out, like all the jobbers come out, and the ECW guys beat them up. And then the rest of the like Rob Terry and dudes start coming out, and the ECW dudes beat them up, and everyone's fighting. And all of a sudden, like the backstage dudes, like the agents and the road managers and stuff like that, they start coming out. And so they start saying like, "There's Terry Taylor, and there's like fucking Al Snow," and Al Snow comes out, and Al Snow like turns on Terry Taylor and punches him in the face, and I'm like, oh shit, they've got Al Snow, run everybody! Al Snow, in this day and age, he's like beating people up. Al fucking Snow. He's with the ECW dudes now. Woo! And so, it was like a bunch of other dudes, like Devon joins the ECW guys. Everyone's getting beat up. They start tearing the ring up. Everyone's getting kicked. It's like it's this huge brawl. And I was like, hey, an invasion angle. Been watching much WWE lately, Dixie? Vince, I know you have. Because, seriously, we got both companies doing an invasion angle now. But, they also got Simon Diamond. Yeah. So I was like, Simon Diamond and Al Snow have turned on TNA. Holy crap. So we're like, but you know what? I was like, maybe I'm being cynical. Because I do tend to question myself more often than not. Because my immediate reaction was like, oh good. They're ripping off the Nexus Invasion angle with ECW dudes. And I was like, wait. You know, being cynical here. So, as I'm being introspective, Dixie Carter, who they show at ringside looking constipated, she stands up, she gets a mic, and she says, "Everybody stop fighting! Please! This is not an invasion! It's okay! I invited them!" I don't even know where to start with this. She's like, it's not an invasion. I invited the ECW guys. Okay, well, way to completely, dramatically undermine any sort of tension or shock value or threat or feeling of spontaneity or feeling of lawlessness that an invasion angle normally brings. You know, like the Nexus dudes. What carries the Nexus thing is the fact that they are completely playing outside the rules. They're not like they are outsiders. You know, they are committing these wanton acts of violence. They have no loyalty to anybody. They're beating people up, and that's what's exciting about that invasion angle is the fact that, okay, I mean, they can't wrestle for shit. There's like that Justin Gabriel guy and Wade Barrett are like the only two dudes in that entire side who can wrestle worth of crap. But even so, they've got this really good gimmick going on where they're like a pack of dogs, you know, they're really dangerous dudes. That's what you do with an invasion angle. But no, the ECW, they've been invited, so it's okay. So why are they beating up like road agents? Why are they beating up like security? Why is any of this happening? And you know, I'll admit I knew this was coming, because they've been doing the ECW thing for a while. But this is so not what they need, this ECW thing. And you know what I'm thinking? Is that this was like, you know when Dixie came on and said she was going to like promote this change that was going to change TNA forever? The rumors were kind of flying that she was getting Paul Heyman, and Paul Heyman didn't show. I don't know if they'll get Paul Heyman, but you know what the thing is? It doesn't matter if they get Paul Heyman or not. Because this ECW invasion thing is dead in the water. And like even if it had legs, this whole I invited them thing sunk it immediately. You know, there's no menace to these guys. And in fact, it makes the entire TNA roster look like complete dorks. Because they have just gotten utterly dominated by like 6 guys who are literally at least 6-7 years past their primes. That's probably understating it. You know, like I'm trying to run down the list of the ECW guys they've got. And stop me when you've run into a guy who is not almost completely broken down and nowhere near as good as they used to be. Like Tommy Dreamer, who should have retired, I'm not kidding, like 7 years ago. Who has somehow managed to shamble his way through the wrestling business up to this point. I feel so bad for Tommy. Hal Snow. Who else? They got Stevie Richards. Who, seriously, Stevie Richards probably should have retired 1997, probably. I remember when Stevie's back was so bad that I think he actually had retired around 1997. Certainly by the year 2000. I know there was this whole thing in ECW where he's like, I have to retire. My back is so bad right now. Like, I can't keep doing this. And I don't know how he ever got back in the ring. Seriously, it's a testament to that guy that he is still able to do even a fraction of the stuff that he is doing right now. Because I know his back is bad. Who else do they have? I can't even fucking remember. Oh, Raven. Raven looks like such crap right now. Does anybody want to see Raven in the ring anymore? That guy, he's broken down. Rhino is probably the only guy in the entire stable who can still go at all. I guess Devon, maybe, but even Devon, way past his prime, man. Like this is just not what TNA needs. TNA, the last thing they needed was a group of even more broken down, washed up dudes from a failed promotion joining them. Like, I can appreciate the nostalgia value. ECW was a lot of fun back in the day, but much like WCW, there's a very good reason why they failed. There just is. Everyone likes chanting ECW. In fact, I kind of have I have a problem with people who chant ECW now. And here's why. I think almost everyone who chants ECW now chants it because everyone else is chanting it. I would almost be willing to say that 75% of the people in the Impact Zone have never seen a single fucking ECW pay-per-view in their lives. It's that sad. Like, I grew up with that kind of wrestling, and I actually have some of the old DVDs. I actually have, back in the days when they were doing they were basically selling tapes the fans made, like handheld fan cameras. I actually have one of those. And that's back in the day. That's way back. Like if I went to the Impact Zone and I was like, if I pulled the entire zone, I was like, does anybody have one of these fucking fan camera tapes? There'd be nobody in there who's fucking seen one of those. Fuck that. No. So, this whole thing where they're like, ECW, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Seriously, fuck these guys. And so, even if they do this thing where they're going to be like, we're going to bring ECW back, we're going to do One Night Stand, and we're going to do it right this time. We're gonna put on the One Night Stand that Vince wouldn't let us do. We're gonna do hardcore. We're gonna do extreme the way it was meant to be. They're not. You've got these guys who, 10 years ago, this might have worked. 5 years ago, maybe a little more than 5 years ago. When did they do One Night Stand? 2005? I think it was. 5 years ago, One Night Stand was actually really sad. And most of that wasn't even guys who were actually in ECW. There was like Kurt Angle in ECW, and basically it was like just a bunch of WWE guys who were doing this thing. Now, don't get me wrong, I liked One Night Stand. Actually, I rather liked the second one, which was not an ECW show at all. I liked that one because it was the Rob Van Dam John Cena match, which is like the worst I ever saw John Cena get booed out of anywhere. I love that show for that reason, but that one reason only, and because they just pissed on the... That was like, One Night Stands 2, or whatever you would call it, was like the greatest... Those were ECW hardcores. That was an ECW audience, where they, like, everyone who was WWF, or WWE, was fucking brutalized. They were chanting, "You can't wrestle," they were chanting, like, same old shit. Orton got booed the fuck out of the building. Everyone did, it was like anyone who was WWE was just crushed. So those were great shows, but they weren't ECW shows. And I guess that's the point they're trying to make. Like, we're going to do ECW right, but these guys are old. They're not going to put on the ECW pay-per-views that you remember. It's going to be a really sad old dude show where old dudes are just kind of hitting each other with garbage cans, hitting each other with barbed wire bats. They're probably going to set a table on fire and the Dudleys will throw a dude through it. But it's just going to be... It's just sad. It's not like we're thinking like ECW's back and better than ever. And no. That ship has sailed. It's over. It's long over. It was over in 2005. That was the point of One Night Stand, was the fact that it's just fucking over. And it kind of proved, like, One Night Stand really illustrated why that kind of wrestling doesn't work anymore. That kind of just, it spawned the era of, backyard wrestling, CZW, which is just garbage wrestling, Like, just a ton of botchy, ultra-violent, no technique crap. And that's not the kind of... ECW had its place back in the day. It really did. It gave exposure to lucha wrestling. It gave exposure to guys who never would have been exposed to the limelight back in the day, like Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio. These relatively smaller dudes who never would have gotten a chance at the spotlight. It definitely had its place. And there was a lot of technical wrestling in ECW. Believe it or not, there was. Like, Dean Malenko. Guys like that who would put on these really great technical matches. And so, but you're not going to get that with this reunion. You're not going to get that at all. You're going to bring back Tony Mamaluke now? Is that going to be like this thing that's going to save TNA? You're going to bring back Sign Guy Dudley? Woo, yay. It's over. It's been over. And TNA, this is not going to save TNA. I don't know who would think that it would. Maybe they're thinking they're going to pop pay-per-view buy rates, like the ECW hardcores are going to come out and watch this one more time. But, like, I've even done this. Like, I actually have the DVD for Hardcore Homecoming, which was lame. Like, really lame. And so, like, that's as far as my nostalgia goes. And you'll rarely find a guy more nostalgic for the old school ECW than me. And even I'm not going this far. Maybe... I can't even say, like, even if they were like, we're going to pull together, like, we're going to get Joey Styles, we're going to get Paul Heyman, we're going to get... I can't even say Shane Douglas, because you really don't want to see Shane Douglas fight. Taz can't wrestle. Not anymore. Who else could you get? From the... Just Incredible? Sandman? Would you get Sandman? Fuck me, man. They probably will. Man, all you gotta do is, like, go find where they sell the cheapest beer. You'll find Sandman crawled up in a hole somewhere, nursing his beer gut. Jesus. They probably will get Sandman. That's the scary part. They'll throw him like $100. He'll show up anywhere. Jesus. Who else could they get? Doesn't matter. They need to, like... You know, they hire Hulk Hogan, they hire these old dudes, they hire Sting, and they're putting the company on the backs of these dudes who can't work anymore. These ECW guys will kill themselves for you. That's what they always have done. I'm not questioning the ECW guys hard, but it's over. You know? Okay. So that's TNA, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this first episode of Wrestle, because there actually was some wrestling on this show. I will try to keep up to date with the latest wrestling, and if it sucks, I'll tell you. So tune in next time for Wrestle. EC Dub! And that'll take your areola right off, I'm telling you!